Well, I think there's a big question about what exactly this framework entails. How detailed is it? Is it enough for Democrats to stand and say, yes, we have an agreement on framework? One really big question here up on Capitol Hill is whether President Biden will be asking Democrats to move an infrastructure bill. Remember that bipartisan infrastructure bill? It passed the Senate. It's been waiting in the House. And progressives are telling reporters this morning that if that's the ask, they're not going to support it, that they're not going to be moving on that bipartisan infrastructure plan until they actually have a much more solid agreement on that social spending and welfare piece of it. And so I think what we might see this morning is Democrats standing together and saying, hey, we have an agreement. I think that, of course, depends on exactly what the White House presents to Democrats. But there are still a lot of concerns among progressives. There's still a lot of angst around things like paid family leave being cut and a Medicare expansion potentially not being in there. So things are a long way from President Biden actually getting to sign that social welfare bill into law. And it's really unclear exactly what the outcome will be of the meeting today.
Well, and what about Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema? I mean, would this satisfy what they were looking for and the issues that they had?
We're hearing that the White House has been working, obviously, with Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, and we hear that they have a loose agreement on what the president will be presenting to House Democrats today. And so this has always been the push and pull, right? The more moderate Manchin and Sinema versus the progressive Democrats, sort of what they're willing to give, what they're willing to do, what they're willing to move forward on. At this point, a lot of Democrats have told me that if President Biden comes to them and says, hey, we have everyone on board, that they will trust President Biden then that Manchin and Sinema are on board with the plan. And so we're starting to get the sense that that's going to at least be one of the president's messages to lawmakers today.
And we're looking at a live shot waiting for, I believe, the president to approach in this wing. He will be speaking in just a few minutes. Jennifer, I also wanted to ask you, I mean, considering what both you and Emily have said, this is a framework. This is still a few weeks, maybe weeks or months off from potentially signing anything into law. Is this really considered a significant win for Biden before he departs for his trip to Europe?
Well, I think it's certainly how the White House hopes to be able to frame it, and they're hoping, I think, to be able to show some momentum out of this meeting on the Hill this morning. And his visit is kind of a triumphant, wrapping up of showing that there's a real accomplishment on the way. It's not clear to me that that's actually going to be the case, but it is indeed the White House's intention here to have something in hand as he goes abroad that shows that he's making real progress on these issues, and shows to the world leaders that he's going to be encountering at the G20 and at the COP summit that he can get things done in his own country. And when he pledges to do something that's going to require congressional approval, he can get it done.
And we're actually looking now again at a live shot of the president approaching Capitol Hill. This is all happening in real time, which is really exciting as we're talking about this. Jennifer, then what is going to be, actually, Emily, I want to pivot to you. What is going to be the president's message today? What are you anticipating he is going to say to both wings of the party and possibly to the GOP as well?
So his message to House Democrats is going to be trying to get them to unify, to align, and to agree on getting something done at this point. One thing that President Biden really does need to do is to give a message of trust, to say to lawmakers, hey, this is my plan. I am the leader of the party. I've worked with, number of you, met with a number of you over the last several weeks. I'm confident that there is an agreement in place. I'm confident we will get this done, and I'm asking you to trust me today to either sign on to this agreement or potentially try and pass that infrastructure bill. That is something that President Biden does want to see passed. And if it does happen, it could be something that he could take and potentially tout in Glasgow at the UN Climate Summit. So I think there's a big outstanding question on exactly what Biden's ask will be and exactly on what Democrats will be able to give him today.
And it's looking like we're seeing a shot now of Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi, somewhere behind there, about to meet with the president. The president is walking into Capitol Hill. As we can, yeah, there we see him right there. This is all happening again in real time. Going to see the president speaking very soon. Jennifer, just to you, as somebody who is already over in Rome where the president will be heading to, there we see President Biden and Speaker Pelosi walking. Maybe we'll just pause to see if they're going to say anything right now. No. Nothing.
Mr. President, should the infrastructure bill pass the House today?
Do you have all 50 senators on board with the framework?
Is Bernie Sanders on board, sir?
Everybody's on board. You're on board, aren't you? Let's still get on.
All right, not looking like he's going to answer questions just yet. Jennifer, just finally to you, as somebody who's in Rome already, you're already in Europe where the president is going to be heading. Are world leaders going to be receptive, considering all of the back and forth that we have been seeing on Capitol Hill and what you just outlined for us?
I think that remains to be seen. He has a couple of different issues that he's dealing with on a bilateral basis with a couple of countries, including working through the tensions with Macron of France in particular, usually a key U.S. ally, but somebody who is quite upset. There is just in general a sentiment in Europe that the things that frustrated them about the Trump administration haven't totally disappeared with the Biden administration. Just even things like tariffs, but even just the attitude is still a America First attitude to some extent. So all of that I think is going to be on the board, but that they still do want the U.S. to play a big role here. And when you think about it, President Putin won't be here, President Xi won't be here. We may not have may not have MBS here from Saudi Arabia. So you're really talking about Biden being by far, up there in terms of the most powerful leaders who are going to be at the summit.
Absolutely. And really important note that you just mentioned there, Jennifer. Emily, just finally, what is it that you're going to be paying attention to over the next few days from your vantage point?
I think a big question is, are they going to wind up passing that bipartisan infrastructure plan today? Is that something that President Biden is going to be able to tout on this trip? And are they going to wind up getting some sort of agreement? Are you going to see this moment where progressive and moderate Democrats come together with President Biden and say, hey, we don't have a final bill, but we do have a framework that we can agree upon? That could be something that President Biden could really play off of. And I think the question is how much, what are the next steps? How long is it going to take for us to get a final bill on this social spending and welfare? There are a lot of little details that have left to be figured out. A ton of stuff was up in the air yesterday, and I think that's going to be the continued focus. What actually makes it into this final package and onto President Biden's desk, and what impact is that going to have on Americans?
Certainly. Emily saying that just as we see the president walking by with Speaker Pelosi and also Representative Steny Hoyer there, going to hear from them very soon. Emily and Jennifer, thank you both for starting us off. That's Emily Wilkins, Bloomberg government congressional reporter, and also Jennifer Epstein, Bloomberg News White House reporter, who is in Rome for us.